Hi, Warwick.
Hi, Nick. Hi, listeners. Welcome.
Back to another episode of the Tradies in Business podcast. But you knew that when you pressed listen. Well, what do you
Mm.
press? It's just like a play button, isn't it?
Thanks for pressing play on another episode. And are you ready? Nicole's got a joke.
We're going to press play on the joke then.
Go.
Why did the chicken cross the playground?
No.
To get to the other slide.
G'day, I'm Waz.
And I'm Nic, sometimes Coxie, mostly Nick.
This is the Tradies in Business podcast, and we're here to share a bunch of tips, ideas, tactics that you can put in place to get change happening in your trade business right now.
If you're really lucky, we're going to entertain you with a few mum jokes and, more importantly, a bunch of fantastic guests that will educate you in all things you need to know about trade business. But we do promise to do it with a whole bunch of fun along the way.
I'm a self-confessed idiot, so strap yourself in and enjoy another episode.
Boom, boom.
Oh, come on.
Speaking of slides,
Yes.
how good's the economy?
It's on a slide. It's a bit of a uppy-downy slide. It's like snakes and ladders continuously, actually.
Yeah, climb the ladder, then down the slide, and then climb another ladder and down the slide. It's what it can feel like sometimes, I guess.
That's what business feels like too, I might add.
And I feel like in the, it's a lot of years now. That was my best elephant impression. Like 16 plus years that I've been working with businesses, and it's about the same for you, Nick.
Mhm.
I often hear people wishing for that time when things would just be easier and smoother and simpler and more predictable and consistent. And I feel like people are chasing this non-existent thing. It doesn't exist.
No, it
There's no
doesn't.
such thing.
I think a lot of us look back to what might have been a bit of a purple patch in our business. There's lots of reminiscing around a time that in retrospect was nice or easy or less stressful because we never know what's around the corner. And so that can cloud what business really is like.
Not talking about the good old days, are you, Nick?
Maybe I'm probably qualified to talk about the good old days.
I'm qualified to talk about the old days. I don't know if they were good.
But don't you agree? Even I feel tempted occasionally. Okay, well, I'll talk about this on a personal level when I think about kids. And recently I was struggling to catch up with a girlfriend of mine because she's so busy with kids' sport. And I'm at the other end of the spectrum where all my children are grown up and mostly left home, and I rarely get to spend a bunch of time with them anymore. And I miss the days where our weekends were busy, 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 totally consumed with kids' sport. And so this is that exact situation we're talking about. I was looking backwards and thinking, oh, if only I had have been more present or enjoyed it more in the moment instead of whinging about having to wash another round of football jerseys or netball dresses or whatever it might be. I was reliving some of the fun times and ignoring the other stresses that were in my life or our family at that time. And I think it can be very tempting to do the same in business.
I'm going to call it the Instagram effect to our memories, where we only remember the Instagram reel.
Yeah.
And we conveniently forget the other stuff that we've been through.
Yes.
And then I think the same thing gets applied looking forward. We hope for this time where things will be easier, because who doesn't want an easier life? I do.
Yes.
But the reality is, based on lots of data and lots of other people's anecdotes, is there are no easier times. It's always up and down. There's always challenge, there's always struggle, and there's always awesomeness and joy. And that's the whole thing. It's just the big, beautiful tapestry of life, listeners. Now, this is not a philosophy episode, in case you're wondering. We're going to talk about staff.
We are. I don't know how all this connects to staff, though. I'm sure there was a thread here that you were following that meant it would all come together. Tied up.
Pull on it like a bell rope. Probably doesn't mean much to anybody. Anyway, what the hell has Instagram memory and the good old days got to do with staff? One of the big questions that trade business owners ask us, ask themselves, ask in Facebook groups is, how do I know when is the right time to employ staff? How do I know whether I can afford to employ a tradesperson or another tradesperson or an admin person or whatever in my business? And unfortunately, we see a lot of you waiting until things are going better, waiting until we've got 6 months of work booked in, waiting till we've got all our systems in place, waiting until the market turns around, waiting until we've got more builder work, more residential work, more of this kind of work, until I don't know, until Mercury is in retrograde with the moon and the solar flare and the something else, the birds are all singing the right tune. Like we're waiting for something.
Mm.
That's how I'm going to join the dots between those two things. We're waiting for the good future days to look like the good old days before we employ someone.
I think we've spoken about this once before in the thought of opportunity cost
Mm.
and what opportunities you're missing by waiting and what could that potentially be costing you and your business. And I think that's probably a great, maybe not an easy way to answer this question, but it is one of the ways to answer the question. When you look at the opportunities, I was actually speaking, we had a ladies session this morning where all our tradie wives in the community come together and we chat about all things business. And we were talking this morning about one of our members really needs to be employing, but doesn't feel like they can commit to it just at the moment. I won't go into the reasons of why. And so we looked at perhaps some of the opportunities they were missing out on. It's very clear they can get all the business that they require to run their very successful business, be able to take time out and do all the things they wish to do with their version of freedom. If the tradesperson just jumps off the tools and heads into the office, but there's just that little bit of fear that's holding them back from making the giant leap. And so when we looked at the opportunity cost, well, what are you missing out on? Here are the 5 ways that tradesperson could spend their time generating more of the kind of work that's profitable and you prefer to do by stepping away from the tools instead of going and literally hammering in nails all day, every day. These are the opportunities that you're missing out on. It really changed the conversation. But there's a better way to do that even, and that comes back to the financial understanding and clarity about, okay, well, what's it going to cost you to have a person fill the role that you're looking to fill? And what potentially could that person be creating in terms of turnover or income for your business by having them in that role? That's not hard to figure out. There's some assumptions we can make, and that'll very quickly answer some of these questions for you.
If you want the answers.
Yeah, I think you've stumbled on the real issue.
I'm going to drop my wife in it here. I love my wife. She's amazing. And she's human. Sometimes I'm not so sure with an 8-month-old and a business and me as her husband. She's got to be superhuman. Like most wives. G'day to all the superhuman wives out there that put up with us blokes and manage the house and the kids and their own business or job. And so my wife is definitely one of those. And she's got what I believe is an amazing opportunity in her business. And she's a sole trader, like many of you listening to this, or even some of you with maybe one staff member or one apprentice, very similar sort of size business and complexity of operation. And as an outside perspective, I think she's got an amazing opportunity to grow her business by employing people. And in her industry, it's hard to get good staff. There's not that many around. There's risks involved with employing them. Obviously, there's a cost. And I'm looking at it going, you should employ people. You got a great opportunity. Just employ some staff. And Nick, exactly what you said. I've done the numbers for my wife and said, look, here, I've crunched the numbers, honey. I've done the logic thing with my man brain. And on paper, it makes absolute sense. She could make a good profit from 1 or 2 staff members and spend a lot less time on the tools herself. She's out seeing clients and doing all that sort of stuff in her business.
Mm-hmm.
And her response has been very firmly, I'm not ready.
Yep.
And I'm like, what do you mean you're not ready? Well, I don't have all the systems and processes in place. Well, no, they create them when you put them on. Yeah, but that's too risky because what if they make a heap of mistakes? I'm like, well, that's why you have supervision and accountability and software. Yeah, but I don't have enough money in the bank to cover their wages. I'm like, you don't need it. You've got plenty of work coming in. Oh, but what if the work dries up? I'm like, well, that's what marketing's for. And so I'm getting all of these reasons why now is not the right time. And just in that little case study, you could change the names and the scenario to be a plumber, a builder, a concreter. It wouldn't matter what trade or what business. They're all the same sort of reasons, which we call excuses around here at Tradies in Business, for not doing it yet. And yet you and I know, Nick, that they are all very solvable and in fact quite simply for most of the trade businesses that we talk to and work with. I drew breath. Sorry, you thought I was going to keep talking.
I did. I want to ride in on my big white horse and make your poor wife feel better in case she never listens to this.
This is why she refuses to listen to the podcast.
I would too after that one. But I feel as though it's okay not to be ready. I probably want to validate that for some business owners, they're not going to be ready. They never will be ready, and that's okay. That's a choice. There are choices that you can make here. And not being ready means that you're choosing to accept some other issues or some other problems that you'll need to solve. And that's fine. That is totally your choice. So if you're one of the people listening to this and thinking, no, I can't do it, that's okay. Just let me reassure you. I don't know if that's reassuring for your lovely wife or not. And so what I do want to encourage you to do, though, is to think about it's exactly that headspace. That you're right. They're common conversations that we have with many of the trades. I don't have the systems in place or I don't have the structure in place. If you're waiting for that, that will never happen because you're busy. That's exactly why you're trying to put someone in place in the first place. Many of the skilled people that you would be looking to fill these roles with will come with the skill set to be able to create some of that structure with you anyway, or at least assist you in a way that means that you can create it. And if you're looking to put on an apprentice, generally you immediately need somebody to do some of the heavy lifting for you to run around and get the stuff and just try to lessen the load that you're carrying on a day-to-day basis. And I think that there's one old rule that works really well when we start to consider the right time to employ someone. And that is, quite frankly, if you're thinking about it, you should have done it ages ago. If it's something that you keep thinking about and it keeps coming up for you and you're doing the ebb and flow in business where it's really busy, so you stop marketing because you've got too much on your plate, and then all of a sudden you're really quiet and you're doing that dippy, uppy, downy thing or whatever it's called on Bluey. I'm trying to be hip, but it's not working. You're doing that thing where you're trying to keep the ball in the air all the time, but you can't because you're busy, busy, busy. You absolutely should be employing someone so you can focus on keeping the ball in the air all of the time. Have you been thinking about putting on an administration team member to help you with the admin so that you can attract the better kind of clients or the right kind of work, or look at increasing your profit, or having the time and the space to understand any of those things I've just said? Then you need to get someone in. You should have done it a while ago. You don't need to have all of that structure in place. They can help you build it. In fact, most of the clients that we work with have employed team members with no structure, and they're doing just fantastic because it's something that we will work with them to be able to instill as they have them on board.
Yeah, I think you can find reasons everywhere if you want to avoid employing somebody. But as you've said, Nick, if you're listening to this episode and that's you've been thinking about it, it's like, oh, I'm thinking about putting someone on, but then you're coming up with all these reasons, or just some of the reasons. I don't have the systems, or I don't have the time to show them or train them or get them set up with doing the work. There are some things you can do to get a little more ready. One of those is to create a position description. So this is the how. I think the decision, and my wife's, again, if I sort of give a bit of an anecdote to that story, we've been having robust conversations about her business and her recruiting for probably the last 6 months. And she proudly told me the other day that she's actually found somebody who has some systems that she can purchase and just pretty much customize and rebadge for her business, which gets her a quick leg up into bringing someone on and having some basics in place. And so a way you can do that yourself in your business is to just write a position description or a job description for this fictitious person that you think you'd like to put on. If that's a tradesperson for most of you, or an admin team member for many of you, just sit down and write down what are all the key tasks and responsibilities. That's like a 20-minute job on the couch with a pen and paper at 11 p.m. or whenever you get your spare time, 2 a.m., whenever you're lying awake in bed, just do it then. And in a lot of cases, it's what's the main things that you're currently doing that you want to offload or create a carbon copy for them to do. And just make a list. That's it. Done. That's a starting point. And once you do that, it's amazing how you start to think, oh, I have got enough for them to do. Or yeah, well, a carpenter would know how to do this and this and this and this. And all I really got to do is just set them up with, where to get materials and how I want things done and where to find stuff in the computer or the iPad or whatever you're using in your business. So that can be a really great first step. And the second thing I would say, Nick, is uh, as you alluded to this earlier, and this is what I did for my wife. I worked out how much money, how much profit could a team member make in their first 12 months if they were just working reasonably productively, not crazy targets, but if they did a reasonable job and they were working on site, doing enough work. Compare that to the wages we're paying. What are some of the other costs with a ute and maybe some tool allowances or whatever you might have to pay? Based on what you're charging at the moment, how much profit could they make you? And that can actually give you some clarity of, oh, geez, if I was paying a carpenter 85 grand a year or whatever it is, and they were able to punch out, whatever thousands of dollars a week in work that they should be able to do. Oh, I could make 30, 40 grand profit or 50 grand profit, or the number's actually a lot higher than that, listeners. But, if it's 50K, it's like, oh, okay, I could make 50 grand just by putting a guy on. That sort of stuff is helpful in overcoming that fear, which is really what stops most people from doing this.
Yeah, it holds us all back from many things over time. That's not abnormal at all. And I feel as though doing that sum is going to get you halfway there. It tells you that it's okay to employ someone. I'm telling you now, you don't even need to do the sum. It's okay to employ someone. They're going to make you money. The amount of money they make may ebb and flow depending on how tightly run the systems are within your business, but you can't change that until you get somebody on to free up some of your time. And the longer you wait, the more ingrained the systems are the way they are, the harder they are to shift and change. Instead, you can not quite shortcut it, but almost make this easier by employing as quickly as you think you're able. And if I address the other big thing that I see quite frequently, Warwick, that's the concern about not having enough work. I won't have enough work. Let me reassure you that nothing will make you find work more quickly than knowing that you have another mouth to feed. Nothing. You will be out there pounding the pavement, doing whatever is necessary to fill your books so that you have enough work for both of you or several of you or your entire team, whatever that looks like, as quickly as possible. I might also add you'll actually have some time to do some of that elusive marketing that you may not have had time to do before. Word of mouth, as consistently as we hear from trades business owners, is not the only way to get work. And in fact, it's the least safe way to get work. There are lots of other strategies that you can utilize that will protect you and your business moving forward. I know why you're laughing.
I'm thinking about
Sorry.
a reel that we ran ages ago with you, Nick. And some of the comments. I've turned this into a sport. I love replying to these people. He doesn't want any more work, mate. Like, oh, did you ask him?
Yeah.
Anywho.
Yes, I think it's important to know that what I unfortunately see is people set themselves up for a failure in this area. They advertise really hard. They get a lot of work through the door because they want to know that they're secure to employ someone. They put somebody on the books, but they're so busy getting through all of the work and recruiting that they've forgotten to keep marketing. And we get a month or two down the track and they've fulfilled their own philosophy. They've turned up and they've got no work or very little work all of a sudden. And yet if they had kept marketing, they could have had work all the way through. So I guess my support or direction to you all is to continue marketing all the way through the process of recruiting. Continue marketing so that you have that workload continuing to come through. There's plenty of work out there if you want it. Don't let that be the thing that holds you back.
Now in classic Waz fashion, I'm going to have the last word on this, Nick, because I have one more thought I want to share with those of you listening to this. If you are already a sole trader or a small trade business with one or two people and you're thinking about employing your next one, or you've got 5 and you want 6, whatever it is, think back to when you started out on your own. It's a similar scenario. How do you know when it's time to make the jump? You don't. You just make the jump and you make it work. And you've done that. If you're listening to this and you're still on the tools making money and you've got clients, you've done this before. You've backed yourself. The how we've talked a bit about. We've given you some key steps in how to make it work for you. And at some point, you just have to go, you know what? I'm just going to make the jump and then I'm going to figure it out as I go. You've already done it. So this is just another one of those times. have fun. Go run an ad or something. Follow the steps that we have just given you. If you'd like a little more support or you want some more tips and tools that you can use to actually help you in this journey of employing your first or your seventh person, we have a whole bunch of resources available here at Tradies in Business. You can grab them on our website. It's probably the best place to start, tradiesinbusiness.com.au. We run regular workshops to help tradies in business get a leg up. We've got free training on the website. We have a course. We've got all sorts of stuff that you can access. So jump on the website. You can find all the details there. And until our next hilarious joke, hooroo.
Thanks for listening.